Black Desert Online, a fantasy MMORPG that launched in 2014 that has seen constant expansions and improvements, earning itself a still very active player base reaching into the hundreds of thousands. Black Desert Online is playable on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and even has a separate version of the game available for iOS and Android. In this video, we'll explore what Black Desert Online is like today. It just received a massive expansion called Land of the Morning Light that added a whole new island region, as well as a completely new leveling experience to the game. It's a huge departure from the normal gameplay loop as it focuses on fully voice-acted quest lines, complete with immersive and impressive cutscenes and epic boss fights while providing a new way to level up. So let's dive in and talk about what you should expect in Black Desert Online this year. The first thing you'll do is create a character, which is probably the hardest part of the game as you'll get to choose between all of these completely different classes. And with the new Land of the Morning Light expansion, you'll also have the opportunity to try out the first twin class added to Black Desert Online. Speaking of which, Wusa's Awakening was also just added to the game. BDO has got sword-wielding melee classes, it's got bow-wielding archers, spell-slinging mages, shield-bearing tanks, and quite a few unique options on top of those. Regardless of which archetype you're craving, BDO is sure to have it. Once you finally decided on which class you're going to play, it doesn't take a long time to realize why so many people have echoed the same comments about the game's graphics over the years. The character customization and the character models themselves are simply outstanding. In fact, I can't think of another major MMO out right now with better character customization. You can customize just about anything about your character that you want to. Hair, face, frontier, posterior, height, all of it. And I do mean all of it. All you have to do is grab onto any feature and move it around to get it to look exactly the way that you like. However, with this much freedom, results are definitely going to vary. You can also have your character pose in attractive positions to make sure they look exactly how you want them to before committing to their look. Okay, almost there. Just need to move that. Perfect. And before we continue, massive shout out to Pearl Abyss for sponsoring this video. After spending an hour of doing all of that, you can eventually accept that someone else made the man or woman of your dreams better than you could, and use one of the most upvoted player submissions instead of your own creation. Feel free to browse these creations and pick from one of the many options that talented players have submitted, or just stick to the one that you made yourself. The choice is yours. As for me, I've made my choice, and I wish I could say it was a difficult one. I'll miss you, Ghostina, but alas, it wasn't meant to be. I was never meant to wield this much power. With Ghostina 2.0 ready to go, we are immediately dropped into the beautiful world and sent to the mythical Land of the Morning Light. Well, almost immediately. First thing we'll have to do is work our way through the short tutorial, and then we are taken to the Land of the Morning Light expansion. Once here, you can play by yourself or group up with friends of all experience levels. If you'd rather, the game does give you the option to stick to the original starting quest line, so don't worry if you were hoping to experience the game's original story first. That's totally still an option. Once in the Land of the Morning Light, the game introduces us to a couple of the main characters right off the bat, who are actually really fun to be around, especially this guy. He's my boy.
Pleasure to meet you. From overseas, ain't you? Already heard all about you from Lady Yunhua.
Very early on, the game hooks us up with a mount to make exploring the massive island all that much more convenient. Ghostina 2.0 is not great at driving this thing right now, but she's eager to get better. Land of the Morning Light is inspired by Korean myths, while scenery is inspired by Korean landscapes. So be sure to enjoy the stunning vistas and architecture as you traverse the lands. It's also worth noting that you get to choose the order that you do the quests in. No longer are you forced to experience the quests and solve the story in a specific order. Instead, you can choose the order you tackle these problems on your own. It's not long before Ghostina is caught up in a massive plot, with law enforcement coming to the conclusion that she is responsible for murdering a local townsman. With no other choice left, we end up fleeing for our lives and jumping down a well. You might think that sounds dangerous, and so did the law enforcement, who assumed the fall killed us after we jumped in. With the local law enforcement off our back, having assumed we died, jumping into the well, we eventually re-emerge and continue our exploration of the island. Ghostina practices her skills on some of the local wildlife, who honestly never stood a chance, but she was hungry for a greater challenge, something that would put up much more of a fight, something that would test her fortitude and her determination. Ghostina was in luck. The story finally faced her off against a boss, and here we get to see the game's combat shine. The vibrant skills, the powerful attack animations make the combat feel intense and engaging. The sword skills have weight and heft to them, making them feel amazing as you strike your enemy. Ghostina dodges and weaves the boss's forecasted abilities and admittedly also face tanks as many attacks as she dodges, but she's young and still learning. These things are natural. Before long, Ghostina is able to overcome the evil force at hand, presumably thanks to her tireless slaughter of the local wildlife. We trained hard, and it paid off. But something is still amiss. The locals need help solving mysteries that still plague the beautiful island, and so we take up the search. We are not alone in our search, as we are accompanied by a dark ghost that apparently only we can see. That is, until we meet another man who sees our strange friend. Is this black ghost friend or foe? It's hard to say, but we learn a little more about it and its personality as we progress through the story. For now, he'll give us quests and rewards, as well as help us upgrade our gear, so Ghostina likes him well enough. But we won't go further into the story, as we don't want to spoil it. It's actually proving to be quite a romp through the game and a fun mystery to unfold. I think players who are looking for a beautiful world to explore while enjoying a great story will really appreciate what has been added to this most recent expansion. With more than 80 cutscenes and 40 story vignettes, Land of the Morning Light will immerse you in an epic story full of amazing voice acting that keeps you wondering what's going to happen next. Perhaps the best part is that new players can choose to start here after they get through the tutorial, meaning that they can head straight to this great story and beautiful island straight from the start. This makes Land of the Morning Light perfect for new players and veterans alike. At this point, Ghostina was looking to explore the simpler side of life, so she jumped into some fishing, gathering, and a ton more. There are lots of ways to participate in these activities, from the more hands-off approach to the more hands-on approach. The way you tackle leveling up your professions is up to you. You can gather herbs, chop wood, build furniture, and so much more. Players can even build a shipyard and build a ship to set sail into the ocean. The life skills in Black Desert Online are so complete and so extensive that a lot of players log in to do nothing else. Until playing the game myself and experiencing the world and the life skills, I couldn't understand how that could be the case. How could someone say all they do in an MMO is life skills? But after spending some time roaming the game's beautiful hillsides and leveling up the skills myself, it made perfect sense. The music, the atmosphere, the view, and the sense of progression you get while leveling up your life skills is such an oddly satisfying combination. If you're looking for a way to unwind and chill, few other MMOs offer as complete a gathering and crafting experience. Pearl Abyss has taken all of this a step farther with a revamp of the life skill activities, now adding new minigames to help reduce the required time for various life skill activities and provide an opportunity to acquire a rare item that grants a special buff. They've also added new food and recipes based on Korean cuisine. But if that's not your speed and you're looking for something more action-packed and fast-paced, BDO more than has you covered. The game features extensive amounts of open-world PvE and PvP content. You can hunt massive world bosses or other players, the choice is once again yours. Or if your version of chilling is grinding out packs of enemies, BDO has you covered. This is probably the best game for heading out to a grinding spot and filling up your inventory with loot while filling your XP bar with XP. Now, with the Land of the Morning Light expansion, Black Desert Online has changed up their old formula. If you've tried Black Desert Online before, you may remember a lot of open world grinding. In Land of the Morning Light, Pearl Abyss has really set out to turn that formula upside down with a focus on immersive quests punctuated by amazing boss fights. In fact, there are 10 new bosses for you to take down in this new content. Thanks to the fact that you can decide what order to do these quests in, you can also choose which order to take these bosses down. The bosses come in different difficulty levels, allowing you to tackle these bosses at the difficulty level of your choosing. Whether you want something easier and more relaxing or something more challenging, once again, Black Desert has you covered. But if you do decide to take the harder versions of the boss fights down, you will be rewarded with things like rare crafting materials and a place on the public time attack charts. And this really seems to be a consistent theme in Black Desert Online. They have something for everyone. If you want to enjoy an incredibly relaxing story in an incredibly beautiful world, you can do that. If you want to engage in some sweaty PvP against other competitive players, BDO has many forms of that type of content for you to jump into. You can do node wars, guild wars, battle arenas, and more. Ghostina here is not quite ready for those activities. Fortunately, on the opposite end of the spectrum, it has housing, where you can obtain and decorate houses reminiscent of the period and locale. And as mentioned, BDO does an amazing job with life skills, allowing this part of the game alone to be an immense time sink if you want it to be. Then, of course, there's ship crafting, which allows for ocean exploration and ship battles, and I can't think of another major MMO that comes close to delivering on shipping in the same way that BDO currently does. With Land of the Morning Light, they've added the Panoxia, a new boat customizable with special gear and crew members. The Land of the Morning Light has also added a new companion to join you that can detect hostile hostiles, and increased rare item drop rates. If you already own Black Desert Online, I've got great news. All of this is free for you to enjoy. If you don't, all you have to do is purchase the base game, and Land of the Morning Light expansion comes included. So be sure to use my link down in the description below to try out Black Desert Online for yourself and its Land of the Morning Light expansion right now. For more MMO and ARPG content, be sure to like and subscribe. Massive shout out to my YouTube members for supporting the channel. To become a YouTube member and have your name appear on the screen right here, as well as get access to behind the scenes footage, a private Discord channel, and more, click the join button down below. If you're not sure what to do next, check out the videos popping up on screen right now. Sincerely, thanks for watching.